The suitcase hit the grass with a dull, final thud, spilling a single sleeve of a worn blue sweater into the mud. Her father did not look away as he said it. "You're a burden. Get out. Don't ever come back." Behind him in the doorway, her aunt said nothing. Her cousin looked at the floor. 12 hours later, she would be standing in the marble foyer of a $30 million mansion overlooking the Pacific, holding a set of keys with her own name engraved on the tag. The same family who had watched her walk away into the dark would soon discover they had made the gravest mistake of their lives. What happened over the next few months would unravel 20 years of lies and change every one of their lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness, humility, and second chances can change the world, please take a moment to like this video. Comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs inspiration today, and subscribe to the Aura Fables for more unforgettable stories. Her name was Elena Marsh, and until the night her father threw her belongings onto the lawn, she had believed that family, whatever its flaws, would always hold the line for you. She learned otherwise in a quiet suburb outside Seattle, where the rain fell so often it seemed to keep time with her sorrow. Her mother had died when Elena was 14, a slow illness that stole her a little more each week, until there was nothing left to hold on to but photographs. After that, her father, Gideon Marsh, changed. He had once been an attentive man, if a distant one, but grief hollowed him into something colder. He stopped asking about her day. He started counting every dollar spent on her as though it were owed back to him personally. If a bill came late, it was her fault. If his job frustrated him, she absorbed the anger when he walked through the door. She told herself it was grief, wearing a familiar face, and so she cooked, cleaned, kept her grades steady, and waited for the softness to return. It never did. Her only anchor during those years was her grandfather, Walter Hale, her mother's father, a retired shipping executive who had once run operations across 3 continents before quietly stepping back from that world. He never spoke of his old business dealings, preferring instead to bring her books, take her fishing on the pier, and remind her that her worth was not decided by anyone's opinion of her. When she was 16, he told her something she never forgot. The people who make you feel small are usually the ones most afraid of how bright you actually are. 2 years after her mother's death, he too passed away, and Elena felt the last steady hand in her life disappear. What she didn't know, what no one told her, was that her grandfather's love for her had never actually left. It had simply gone underground, working quietly in the background of her life for years, in ways she would only understand much later. The night everything broke came without warning. Elena had lost her part-time job at a downtown printing shop after the business folded. And before she could even explain the layoff to her father, he exploded. He called her lazy. He called her a drain on a household that had nothing left to give. He stormed into her bedroom, ripped her suitcase from the closet, and threw her belongings inside without care for what tore or shattered. Then he dragged it out to the front lawn and dropped it in the wet grass. "You wanted independence," he said. "Go find it. You're not welcome here." Her aunt stood in the doorway and said nothing. Her cousin looked away. No one moved to stop him. Elena loaded the suitcase into her old sedan and drove until she found an empty grocery store parking lot, where she spent the night curled in the driver's seat, crying until there was nothing left inside her. Just after sunrise, a knock on her window startled her awake. 2 people in dark, tailored suits stood beside her car, one of them holding a leather folder. "Are you the granddaughter of Walter Hale?" the older man asked. When she nodded, unsure whether to be afraid, he said the words that would change everything. "We've been looking for you. Your grandfather left you an inheritance, and we're here to bring you home." She followed their car along the coast highway, her hands trembling on the wheel, certain there had been some mistake, some clerical error that would be corrected the moment she arrived. 40 minutes later, they stopped before a tall iron gate above a cliff overlooking the ocean. The gate opened onto a sprawling white estate, wide glass walls catching the morning light, a garden manicured to perfection, the sound of waves rolling all the way up to the front steps. "This belongs to you now," the attorney said. Elena stood frozen, waiting for someone to laugh and admit the error. Instead, she was handed a folder. Every document bore her grandfather's signature. Her own name appeared as the legal owner of the estate. Before the keys were placed in her hand, the younger attorney produced a cream-colored envelope, sealed in dark blue wax. "Your grandfather's first instruction," she said. He asked that you read this before anything else. Elena broke the seal with shaking fingers. Her grandfather's familiar handwriting greeted her, and within a few lines she understood this was not simply an inheritance. It was the beginning of a long, deliberate unveiling. He wrote that he had always feared her father would one day choose anger over love, and that if she was reading this letter, that day had finally come. He asked her not to let bitterness take root, because there were things she still did not know, and judging too quickly would only deepen the wound. The mansion, he wrote, was never the true inheritance. It was only the door. Behind it waited the truth, and he asked her to be patient enough to walk through every room of it. That evening, as Elena sat by the ocean-facing windows with a cup of tea, the estate's gate intercom buzzed. Her father had arrived, along with her aunt, her cousin, and 2 distant relatives, none of whom she had invited. She let them in anyway. They walked through the marble foyer, studying the chandeliers and the ocean view, rather than looking at her. Her father broke the silence first. "Explain this," he demanded. "How did you get all of this?" She told him plainly. Her grandfather had left it to her. He scoffed, insisting it was impossible, accusing her of manipulating a dying old man. One relative claimed she must have hidden the real will. Another suggested she had taken advantage of his illness. Not one person in that room asked how she had spent the previous night. Not one apologized for standing silent while she was cast out. Elena let them finish before speaking. "The attorneys have every document," she said quietly. "If you believe something was done unlawfully, take it up with them. I think it's time for you to leave." Her father paused at the door and said only, "This isn't over," before disappearing into the dark. Over the following weeks, letter after letter arrived from her grandfather's estate office, each one peeling back another layer of a story she had never known. He revealed that her college tuition, mysteriously cleared one semester when her scholarship fell short, had been paid quietly by his hand. The apartment deposit she assumed a trusting landlord had waived had, in truth, come from him. Her very first job offer had not been chance. He had simply asked the company to grant her a fair interview, nothing more, insisting that everything after that had been earned through her own effort alone. Then came the letter that made her blood run cold. Attached were bank statements from a trust account established for her as a child, meant to fund her education and her future. Over 2 decades, that balance had been slowly, deliberately drained. Every withdrawal bore the same signature, her father's. Besides several of the transactions, her grandfather had written small, restrained notes, "Not approved." Asked him to replace the funds. No response. It wasn't a single betrayal, she realized. It was a pattern stretched across her entire childhood. One theft compounding into another until the damage no longer looked sudden, but simply became her normal. Buried deeper in the boxes was a page torn from her mother's journal, written in the final weeks of her illness, describing how deeply she feared for her daughter's future and how she had begged her own father, Elena's grandfather, to make one promise. "Don't let my daughter face this world alone." He had kept that promise in silence for 20 years, protecting her from a distance because revealing the truth too soon might have shattered whatever family she had left. The final documents, delivered by her grandfather's longtime attorney, revealed the deepest deception of all. For years, her father had misrepresented the family's finances to relatives, claiming investments had failed or properties had been sold, while quietly siphoning resources meant for his daughter to cover his own excesses. Her grandfather had spent years documenting every discrepancy, not out of vengeance, but because he anticipated a day when someone would need proof that the truth had not simply vanished with him. Weeks later, her father returned to the estate, this time with a different tone entirely. The family business, he admitted, was collapsing under debts he could no longer hide. He asked, without apology, whether she might help. Elena studied him for a long moment. "I already know what it feels like to watch my family suffer while doing nothing," she said. "I won't repeat what was done to me." He left without another word, and this time, no one dared claim the encounter had been unfair. In the final sealed letter, her grandfather wrote that true wealth was never about property or inheritance. It was the quiet freedom to know your own worth without needing anyone else's approval to confirm it. Several months later, her father returned once more, older, quieter, stripped of the certainty he once wore like armor. He admitted, without excuse, that he had spent years pushing her away and had only recently understood the cost of it. He asked if she could ever forgive him. She answered honestly, "I don't want to carry hate for the rest of my life, so yes, I forgive you." But forgiveness doesn't erase what happened, and it doesn't mean we go back to who we were. He nodded, and for the first time he seemed to understand. Elena stayed in the mansion her grandfather had left her, not because of its size or its view of the Pacific, but because it had become the first place in her life where love had never asked her to earn it. She used part of the estate to fund a scholarship in her grandfather's name, so that other young people who felt forgotten might find the same quiet hand reaching for them that had once reached for her. True greatness, she came to understand, was never measured by title, wealth, or the volume of a person's voice in a room. It was measured by character, patiently built in the years no one is watching. And behind every steady face, there is often a battle no one else can see, waiting only for someone willing to notice it.